Hello and welcome to Frank's School. Frank's School seems to have sort of exploded in the sixth year. Thematically, what I mean is in terms of subjects. And I thought I should comment on that in this sixth year. The first year, it was clearly a chronological survey of the humanities, what I'd taught before. The second year, I was adding to that. By about the third or fourth year, I had introduced my political ideas and the trades, etc. But now, and last year, it was the building of Camp Ranch campus, the actual physical building of the stuff that's around me. But this year, there's not really a single theme directing what I'm doing. I sort of leaped into the year, and I'm going from this to that. I'm going to try to sort it out with playlists. That I'll continue to do. I had said at one point that writing can be like Ariadne's string as a way to find your way back out of a, what they call it, labyrinth. Out of a labyrinth, how did I get here? And you find your way out with Ariadne's string. Well, it occurred to me that you could change that metaphor a little bit, and Ariadne's string could end up being a tangle, like the Gordian Knot. So what happens now? How do you find your way through the Gordian Knot? I'm someone who likes to do one thing at a time, believe it or not. And now these subjects have scattered. For example, I'm teaching, or at least I'm talking in Portuguese. I call that the seventh year, but it's current. I actually shifted over to Portuguese, in the process of losing any only English-speaking audience that I had, but in desperation to work on that, to try to come up with this movie Resurrection. I sort of gave up on my English-speaking audience on that, and I thought, well, let me try the Brazilians and the Portuguese. So that's going on. The fifth year is not done because I saved about the last 10 videos to summarize what's gone on in Frank's School for the first 5 years. Art Talk Writing, that's what launched me into the sixth year. I part largely because of the political situation with Donald Trump looking like he was going to become president or would. I decided, well, you'd have to go look at it. It was kind of an act of decentralism to show that I have a way of writing which is not so easy for computers to just analyze and stuff. Whatever. I mean, anyway, that's the beginning of the sixth year. The Camp Ranch campus, it goes on, but it's already so varied. The windmill complex, for example, is so complicated, and I've spent some time on it. I've built an aqueduct, a little tiny aqueduct. I'm going to start a fountain, or I have in a way already started a fountain. There's these machines that I'm building, homemade band saws and glass grinders and other stuff like that. And the continuing of this alternative building culture, which I developed last year. And last year I really have come up with an alternative way to build. I didn't exactly stumble onto it, I just sort of followed logic. And by using pallets and by keeping things small, etc., last year, the building culture pretty much is developed. But now I need to go on with it, so that's going to go on this year. This stuff is season driven. In other words, I come to a point, and Shirley, my German friend, and others have said, why don't you just finish something and then go on to something else? Well, I take it as far as I can until the season demands that something else happens. Like gardening is about to demand that it has its attention, and I'll see how far I can go with gardening, but then I'll run out of time, and haymaking is going to come in. And all right, another thing that I've been doing is I've begun to sort of mine my earlier videos, especially travel videos. I've gone back to the playlists, and I've started to travel once again with my daughter Erica through Europe, and then with Shirley through Europe, and then with Shirley through Portugal, then with Shirley and Thomas through Germany and the Netherlands, and then Shirley and Thomas through Portugal. Going back, partly for pleasure, but also because I'm mining things. When I filmed details, and those details then I have, and I can reference them. And they have a lot to do with the way I build because of the things I've seen. So there's that going on. That you haven't maybe seen so much of if you've been watching my videos, but I've been doing it. Shakespeare is, I may go revisit Shakespeare because I have a stage, a theater in effect down there I call it Thomas Hockling Hall, which just needs to be cleaned up, and it could be used in that same theater, diagramming sentences. I may return to that. I really taught it completely, but the cat's going to get in a bag. Competitive diagramming of sentences, that is fun to be had potentially, but that'll take others. Class vocabulary, I skipped that I think the last 2 years, but I may go back to that because I still think that's a very good trick. Botany, at one point I thought I would devote my 6th year to botany because I did study a lot of it, and I thought, why don't I just throw my attention to botany, especially economic botany. Who knows? I mean, because like I say, it's scattered. I don't know exactly what the video tomorrow is going to be. Where am I going to go on this? Travel. Didn't travel the last year, or last 2 years actually, but I have my trip planned. I just need to see when I've got money enough and things are stable enough to go do it. So travel may pop up. That would be to Portugal and the Alps, which I have already described the trip in Portugal and the Alps in brief, I think, is how you could find that description. But if I actually do that trip, you know, when I travel, I learn. Fiction. I'm trying to find a collaborator on a historical novel about this very place, and there's developments on that, and I've begun to think about that. Could involve you. I don't know. Poetry. Maybe go back to that. The Overtree works. The Song of Marion's Daughter, for example, is a fragment. And, you know, I've thought before, could I finish that? Could I get help to finish that? Degrowth. You're going to hear about that real soon. I've discovered this word degrowth, and I need to share what I've found about that. Go cat. So my point is that my subject matter has scattered, but there is one other thing I wanted to put here. I usually try, I think it's a pitfall of many writers, for example, or teachers, to write too much about themselves. Well, here we go. About 3 weeks ago, I became a grandfather, and today, this very day, I'm going to meet my grandson, Stellan Suroosh Isfahani. I hope I've spelled his name right. Isfahani. I think that's right. Suroosh Isfahani is Stellan's grandfather's name on his father's side. His grandfather died just about a year or maybe 2 years ago. And Erica, my daughter, had the baby boy on March 25th. That's his birthday. Everybody's fine, and I haven't been able to see him yet. My wife has gone down there a lot to help with that. But today, I drive down to Washington, D.C., actually, Falls Church, Virginia, and I'm get to see my grandson. He's big. He's probably going to, it looks like he's going to be a big boy, big and maybe tall. You know, it's hard to tell with a baby. Got dark hair. His father's side is Pakistani. His mother's side, my side is, you know, Swedish, English, German, Welsh. So it'll be quite interesting to see this boy as he grows up. All right, bye for now.